Hello everyone, my name is Ruby Lorza and I'm studying the Master in English Language Teaching at the Expro University. The subject is English through translation. The professor's name for this cycle is Jesus Castañon. The activity is a video presentation about teaching English through translation. Well, the introduction. According to the anthology, culture used translation for literary, religious, and scientific reasons at the time. However, nowadays in multilingual societies and a globalized world, translation is all around us as a skill in an authentic act of communication. From families, schools, hospitals, courts, and clinics to business meetings. We find it in notices, films, labels, menus, subtitles, news, interviews, and many other places. Chapter 1. A brief history of translation. 3100 before Christ, Egyptian inscriptions were in God's language and slavery language. First Egyptian translation work went from Hebrew into Arabic. Second millennium before Christ, Sumerian poem Gilgamesh was translated into Asian languages, Indian documents into Chinese, and ancient Greek texts in Roman. 300 before Christ, Greek academics were developed thanks to the translation work of Arabic scholars. Romans used translation with Spanish and Islamic cultures. Ancient Greek word metaphrases means to speak across. 3rd century before Christ, Old Testament of Bible was translated into Greek and named Septuagint. 4th century, Gaspar Antonio interpreted Spanish and Mayan. He worked for King Charles V of Spain. Saint Jerome translated the Bible from Greek and Hebrew into Latin. 16th century, translation was the popular method from Greek to Latin speakers. 17th century, translation services were used in Rome by Cicero and Horace. 18th century, Sacagawea interpreted during the negotiations between explorers and the Susan tribe. Early 1800, Oscar Wilde translated The Happy Prince into Spanish at the age of 9. Twain decided to translate the French version of the celebrated Jumping Frog back into English. Alexander Borgnine became a multilingual spy for the British military. 19th century, translation became the major method for the target language. Chapter 2. Translating or translation. The practical approach. The practical approach determines how to transfer the content of the source into the target. Keep in your mind, source language means the native language, and the target language means the foreign language. The linguistic model studies the structural differences between source and target that appear in translation, mainly in communicative situations. Most readers prefer learning the source language instead of reading back target language. Resistance translation. Translation should resist dominant target language, cultural values, and make it clear that the source text represents some linguistic and cultural difference. The computational model. Today we speak of computer-assisted translating, in which humans post-editing can nowadays improve it. Interdisciplinary models. exact equivalence between language 1 and language 2 is extremely rare because many factors converge in the act of translation. Sometimes the translated target language text is not appropriate in the target language culture. The critical approach presupposes a finished translation. The grammar and lexical needs a description of the cognitive and interactional frames. There must be a negotiation between different language systems. Translation theory today. It's mainly concerned with translation criticism where textual knowledge is culture-bound. This is so relevant for literary translations with an ideological charge. Pragmatics. Inference play a great role in retrieving utterance meanings in text. Works of fiction and factual text are different in content and form. There are two operations in translation: indirect description and verbal equation. Pragmatics. Texts that reflect expertise of specific authors and purposes present difficulties with strict norms of presentation and register. Texts normally create interest by their information content and not by their textual appearance. The competence of the translator is the knowledge of two language systems and communicative knowledge. Translating and interpreting require certain skills that are not innate. They must be acquired. Chapter 3. Teaching translation. There are different modes of translating and interpreting for insights into foreign language teaching and learning. Teaching future professionals. Here we have some key facts. The main goal is to use the language as a tool in future professional activities. Translators need to focus on the practical aspects of total proficiency in the target and source language. Interpreters must acquire interpreting skills before entering professional activities. Proficiency in the foreign language, excellent command of the translator's mother tongue, and sociocultural knowledge are absolutely necessary for translating. Difficulties or problems when translating. Lack of proficiency in the target language. Lack of proficiency in the source language. Lack of intercultural competence. That means little awareness of the cultural context. Chapter 4. Translation as a language teaching tool. I have used translation while teaching a second language because this tool in particular helps students to improve their communication skills as well as increase their awareness of the grammatical differences between the two languages. I consider that when translation is used to promote learning, can be a very important tool in foreign language learning and as success in a process of second language acquisition. Recent approaches to translating in the classroom. John and Lee Source reject the opinion that only the foreign language, language 2, should be used in a language learning class. Here we have some features. Translation is a contentious issue in language teaching today. Teachers should ensure that the students translate for concept, not for form. Words and expressions do not always have automatic standard dictionary equivalents. Most translations will be into language 1, translations into language 2 being possible only as higher. Steps to translation, preparatory exercises. The intention here is that students learn to become aware of whether or not they have captured the original author's intent meaning. A student should also be encouraged to bring to class any bilingual material because there are many different text types that can be used. Translating. Translating language 2 to language 1. Using text provided in textbooks. Determining register and learning how to use dictionaries. Translating into language 1 by students or teachers focusing on the use of linguistic expressions. Consecutive interpreting of an oral message. Translating language 2 to language 2. Language 1 to language 2. Inverse translation should not be attempted at the lower levels of language instruction. More advanced learners could try their hand at language 2 versions of language 1. Process versus product. The correction or post-correction stage is an ideal opportunity for future contrast between different versions of summary or translation and for students to learn good dictionary skills. The whole point of translation in the language 2 learning process is to contribute to the student's ever greater grasp of the language 2 language and culture too. Finally, translation enables effective communication between people around the world. It's a career for the transmission of knowledge, a protector of cultural heritage, and essential to the development of a global economy. Translation studies is a field of study that deals with the theory, description, and application of translation, because it examines translation both as an interlingual transfer and as an intercultural communication. Translation studies can also be described as an interdiscipline with touch on other diverse fields of knowledge, including comparative literature, cultural studies, computer science, history, linguistics, philosophy, rhetoric, and others. The skills of translation are becoming ever more important and desirable. Today's multicultural and multilingual society demands effective, efficient, and empathetic communication between languages and cultures. That's important for various reasons we have also studied. Conclusion. Translation is one of the many methods that exist to help students learn and appreciate a foreign language. I consider that when translation is used to promote learning can be a very important tool in foreign language learning and as a in the process of second language acquisition.